Thank you.
So, I am speaking next, along with some of our colleagues from Ealing Council, and we have some of our colleagues from HGS on the call as well. So I want to talk to you today about CHC Plus. Now, this is hopefully one of those kind of big areas actually that we've just been talking about. So we really kind of focused on continuing healthcare as a kind of challenge area, because we knew there was such a big opportunity there. We knew that actually this rub between health and care can be a real challenge. We know there's a big gap in the funding, and we know that it's a kind of standard approach that really could kind of benefit from the use of generative AI. But we have been working collaboratively as part of this work, and I think exactly as the point that we've heard just now, you know, we're going to get to a much better place quicker if we kind of do this together. So we've kind of been working and recognizing all the different parts involved, skills. So outcomes matter, that's where I work. My team are very experienced in kind of people services, transformation, so behaviour, culture change, and we've got a background in kind of digital innovation, and many of the team started their careers in kind of local government. We're working with a company called HGS UK, who are our technology provider for CHC Plus. They are a provider of large-scale infrastructure, so they work with the NHS already, they work with central government already, so we really kind of know the, you know, the level of security, safety, etc. that we need from our tools, which is really helpful. And then finally, most importantly, our local authority and ICB colleagues. So we wouldn't have been able to get to where we've got to without all the input from all the people that we have spoke to. So we've been doing some really great work with Ealing, which we'll come on to talk about, but we've also engaged with colleagues right across the kind of health and care system. So from social workers who kind of write checklists through to ICB areas that kind of receive those. We've been speaking to sort of experts who work in the field. We've been speaking to private companies who provide kind of continuing healthcare casework. So real kind of collaborative effort to get to where things have got to. So for those people that maybe don't know continuing healthcare, it is the mechanism by which an individual's care and support is paid for, and it's used when the person has kind of significant health needs that are maybe the thing that kind of you know, is the primary thing that they have care for. And if someone is deemed eligible for continuing healthcare, it means the NHS will be paying for their support. So there is a real challenge around continuing healthcare at the moment. There are no end of headlines around it. I think you know, it's a tricky process. It's something that is really feeling that kind of financial squeeze. But there's also some real practical things that we're seeing. So in our work with sort of in our discovery work with social workers, we really found that actually there was a real challenge with articulating an individual's needs within the continuing healthcare checklist. And I think actually when you kind of look at it, to me, it makes real perfect sense. So our social workers by practice are thinking about strengths, thinking about independence, you know, really asked to practice and draw out strengths, really thinking about writing in a strengths-based way, except for this one process where they have to be almost in a bit of a medical mindset, and they have to write in more of a kind of deficit-based way. And so it's just really difficult for our social workers to kind of do that. You know, it's kind of a different skill set. It takes a long time to actually write the checklists and kind of pull together all of that information. And then what we kind of see as a result of that is we see a real variation in acceptance rates. And that's not always for checklists. Actually, people that are involved in checklists probably know that our initial checklists most of the time do get accepted. But as we get further into the journey, that's where we kind of start to see those rates drop off, which means some areas are having higher spend than others. And the whole thing causes kind of a lot of conflict and tension. So at a kind of strategic level, where it's about the kind of, financial picture maybe, but also operationally for those working on the ground, you find our social workers are having to liaise with colleagues from the ICB who receive the checklist. And there's lots of back and forth that often takes place. And so it's just quite a sort of tense, time-consuming process. We've actually done some analysis looking at this at a national level, and I think there were a couple of things that were really, striking. So in the context of demand for adult social care, that is increasing and complexity is increasing. We've actually seen a decline in rates for continuing healthcare. So we wouldn't have expected that. We'd have maybe expected to see that increase as well. And we think there's maybe a gap of about 5,500 people that could be receiving continuing healthcare funding that aren't. And that's about £270 million worth of funding that is potentially being funded by local authorities that should be being picked up elsewhere. The other thing that we looked at that we thought was really interesting was correlation between needs and the CHC rates in a particular area. And actually, on the whole, there was very little correlation. So we looked and compared this against age, against a range of health needs, and against deprivation. And there was little to no correlation. And what that actually suggests is that somebody's outcome of their continuing healthcare process is more likely to be defined by local practice than it is their needs. And actually, this process is very much about defining needs. So, a real legitimate challenge there that we have been kind of working together to overcome. So actually, what is CHC Plus? So it uses generative AI to create that first draft CHC checklist from all of the different supporting documentation that a social worker would use. So to complete that checklist, they might be looking at their assessment conversations, discharge notes, providers' records, views from the family. They input all of those into the tool, and then the worker reviews those. So the tool isn't making any decisions, and I will come on to show you something around that when I do a little demo. But yeah, it's about kind of saving that time and giving workers that real head start. So in terms of impact, and we'll come on to talk about this with what we've seen in Ealing, but overall, we're aiming for, improved quality narrative and evidence in our checklists, more confident staff, fewer checklists rejected, more timely and appropriate CHC decisions, and reduced rework and escalation. And as you'll come on to see, we have kind of really started to see that with our colleagues in Ealing. Oh my goodness. My key is stuck. Bear with. My slides are being a total nightmare today. Oh.
Emma, you're getting a lot of interesting points raised in the chat. There's a couple of colleagues that want to speak to you.
I'm not the best at multitasking, so I
no, that's fine. I'm just letting you know that there's lots of engagement, so don't worry too much. Keep going.
Cool. So I will show you the tool working very quickly, and then we will get on to hearing from our colleagues from Ealing. So it is very simple to use. It is as simple as kind of logging in via a browser, uploading documents into the tool, The tool then generates the descriptions of need across the domains, and then the worker reviews and refines those checklists. Just in terms of kind of that, some of that safe and ethical AI, so all the stuff that kind of Shelley was talking about, we've designed the tool to be kind of secure by default, to meet all of those local authority requirements by default. So we have got kind of data retention policies that we can adjust as needed for different local authorities, but most importantly, you know, the data is not used for anything. The tool is absolutely secure, and it is kind of all hosted in the UK and very kind of secure by login. And I know that's often what colleagues like to know. So what I just thought I could do very quickly is show you just some parts of the tool. Now, I'm not going to be able to take you through a full thing kind of live just because of the time that we've got, but I'll click you through the kind of main parts that are within the tool. So a worker would log on with their email address. We can connect this up to a local area's single sign-on so that it's linked to your kind of login details, your end, which Ealing colleagues have asked for. So when they get onto the tool, a worker can create a client. So they would go in and put the individual's information into here. Once they've actually got a client, so we'll do this Mario who's on the screen already. They then upload the various documents that are utilised to create a CHC checklist. So I'll just click this. As you can see, it's that very familiar kind of drag and drop of file selection. My cat has come to join us now, folks, so you might see a cat join the screen in a minute. So yeah, select the files from here. So they would be, yeah, all different file types. It can accept Word documents, PDFs, scanned text. So very kind of flexible in terms of what it can accept. And once they've been uploaded, the tool will basically then generate the descriptions of need. So for those of you that know continuing healthcare, you'll recognise all these different subheadings. So what each of these are is the sections of the continuing healthcare checklist that a worker is asked to describe the needs around. Kate, did you want to jump in now?
I'm just giving you your 5 minutes.
Thank you very much.
It's 11:40, just so you know.
Yeah, perfect. So what you've got on the tool here, this section here, this brief description of breathing, this is the bit that the generative AI has produced. So it's this text here, and what you can see it's given you is the source information. So these are the two sources that have been used to create this description of the person's needs. Now, if the worker was happy with that description, they can just utilise that one. However, they might want to make some changes. So there's a couple of different ways that they can do that. They can just click into the box and do the pen icon and just add some text in there. Or if it was a kind of maybe a more fundamental change, we've got this section here that our social workers really kind of love using, where they can actually kind of give it a specific prompt for the tool to follow. So once they have been through each of these domains, they will then need to select the rating score, so the A, B or C. And this is where we say, this is where the professional judgment comes in. So there was genuinely a bit of a debate around, could the tool come up with your scoring for you? And I guess where we got to is, yes, technically it could, you know, based on all the information that is put in and based on the scoring framework, it could. But we thought what that was doing was tipping into the AI making decisions, and we didn't want that to happen. So we have consciously chosen that the worker must manually select each of those scores. and then they get to generate the final checklist. So once they've actually done that, they then click generate checklist. And for those of you that are familiar with the process, you'll recognize this form. What it then does at the end is outputs that individual's information into the exact required template that then goes off to NHS colleagues. So that's the kind of output of the tool. Now we can kind of show individuals that, you know, if people are keen to have a bit of a longer demo, just let us know. But I'm very keen to hear, just for our last few minutes, from our colleagues from Ealing. So we have been piloting CHC Plus with Ealing colleagues. We are now about to roll out across kind of larger group of workers there, but we saw some really great impacts, and so I think the headlines for me, you know, over an 80% reduction of time that it's taking our social workers to complete the checklists, rework really reducing, so actually no checklists being returned, and really kind of helping our staff feel like they can spend more time with families, feeling more organised. So yeah, I don't know whether Zephy, would you be happy to share a few words about kind of how it's been for you and the kind of impact you've seen across the team?
Yes. So my name is Zephy Polius. I am the CHC lead for Ealing. A year ago, Ealing introduced, well, we created this team. As we all know, people who are involved with CHC, and so we created this team where I am the team manager and I have one social worker, and we concentrate on CHC checklist and CHC assessments and DSTs. And as we all know, it's difficult. We try our best to work with our CHC colleagues, but sometimes it could be difficult and challenging. So Emma, our assistant director, spoke about the CHC Plus app, and we were interested, and Emma contacted us, and we created the tool. At first I was apprehensive because I'm thinking, okay, that means I'll lose my job because they won't need me anymore. But this has not been the case. Emma and I created the tool from scratch in terms of the templates, the wording, what we want it to look like, and this is what we have today. At the moment, as Emma's rightly said, we have had no checklist returned. It takes about maybe 30 to 45 minutes, maybe 30 minutes to create a checklist. Again, it's as good as the information you put in. The more information you put in, the better quality checklist you will receive. You could put in historical stuff, current stuff, GP, all information, anything at all. Even your case notes from Copilot, anything at all. So whatever you put in, that's what you get out of it. At the moment, I have an excited workforce. Everybody wants to use Copilot. We are looking to roll it out across the whole of the local authority. We are in the process of doing that now. And even feedback from the NHS colleagues, they're saying that the quality of the checklists are better. There is not many back and forth emails and prompts.
And that's really positive to hear, I guess, Zephy, because I think that's the bit that, as well as creating it, actually that back and forth bit taking quite a lot of time.
Yes, that I spent a lot of my time before CHC Plus sitting with social workers, going through the checklist, make sure the language was correct, the scoring was correct. It took a lot of my time. I also attended, the team meetings, to do briefings, just to make sure, recommended trainings, because I see somebody mentioned about training, which is a very essential part of this, because without the tool, even if you have the tool and you don't have the knowledge on how to use the tool and the information the tool gives you to actually get good outcomes for our residents, it's no use. It's not as good as it could be. So all of our social workers are now going on training. We're rolling out. I think we have one of the CHC training coming up. We have refreshers, even for managers. Some of the managers, they have access as well. It's not a sales pitch. It is really an amazing tool, and it's really changed our lives. And we had a brief pause for about, was it 2 weeks, Emma? Just to make sure that the governance and the contract and everything was in order. And I had constant emails from my social workers saying, when are we getting this back?
Yes,
When are
yes, we had mutiny, didn't we? That we'd
when are we getting the tool back? In terms of funding for Ealing, we have seen increased rate, more checklists are being completed. So we're getting F&C as well as CHC. At the beginning of my role, I was challenged to maybe get, as we know, 2 wins CHC for the year. I think as of today, we've had, I'll say maybe 10, 11 wins, meaning full CHC. So it is really an amazing tool, and everybody's excited, and it saves you have a imagine a checklist in 30 minutes.
Yeah, amazing, Zeffie. Thank you so much.
It's just amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, Zeffie. Appreciate that. And Shirley, are you on the call? So Shirley, I am very sorry, Kate. Yes. I'll give you 2 more minutes, Kate, and then I'll stop. I see you.
You read my mind. I was literally about to put my hand up as a little nod, but lovely to hear from Zeffie. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so Shirley, yes. Shirley is one of the social workers that has been probably the main person using the tool, and I think you've had some really interesting feedback before. So yeah, it'd be good to hear from you.
Definitely. I'm Shirley Ellis, the CHC social worker. Zeffie is my senior, and like I said, I've been involved with the CHC Plus, using it as a tool, and it's been so beneficial for completing the checklist in a timely manner. It's a brilliant tool to break down the areas and be specific about what you want and what type of language you want to use to maybe highlight the person's condition and things like that as well. But like I said, it's a brilliant tool to use. It doesn't take away your judgment in scoring the fields at the end, which I think is important as well. So you still have that as a consistency that's there. But in terms of the more information you can actually provide and more current, I found the tool generates a much more beefier and juicy assessment in the different fields. So I've done, I've inputted information where it's been historical, and it seems to be a bit more loose in the language of being specific because it's historical. But I found the more current information, maybe say 3 to 6 months, it's generated definitely more information in fields. And to date, like you said, we haven't had any rejected, but sometimes they've just asked where ones that I've inputted that previously had failed when it's been done manually, they are now actually looking into doing a DST. So even with limited information, it still doesn't get rejected, but they will just ask, could you then supply like maybe OT report and a GP summary? So it's a very useful tool, and it's definitely saving a lot of time constraints that are put on social workers to complete the other part of their jobs in doing the like overview assessments, the MCAs and things like that as well. So anything that cuts back on time but can produce a good document is always a plus. So yes, 5 stars.
Lovely, yeah. Shirley, thank you. Okay. Cool. So I am going to get slapped wrist. I've got a couple of video links that I'll send around to people just to let people know what we're up to next. So we are rolling out across all social workers in Ealing now. We've got some pilots starting in Buckinghamshire, Stoke, BCP and Coventry. And we've kind of got an early adopter program if anyone on the call is interested to find about a bit more. And then kind of 2 big developments that we hope to start on as soon as possible this year. So adding transcription into the tool itself, because actually many of our social workers are having specific CHC conversations, and beginning development of DST+. So it's the kind of next stage on of that continuing healthcare journey. So happy to do sessions anytime. Contact us if a demo is useful. But huge thank you to Zeffie and Shirley for sharing. Yeah, really appreciate it.